It's so interesting to think of all those episodes of adult beverages. So which beer are we going to move on to next? He says, changing the subject halfway through.
We're going to move on to Tonewood Revolution Porter. Now, this one I found very interesting because so when I picked it up, I just picked it up just kind of like, I don't say randomly, but I was at the liquor store and I was like, well, what are we going to drink today? And it didn't even occur to me like Revolution in the font that it is. As you can see, it's kind of you can't because like the light is terrible. There's like a fist, and I thought it was just like a general like we're gonna start a revolution. Yeah, and it turns out that they partnered with Revolution Coffee Roasters, which is in Collinswood, New Jersey. Tonewood, the brewery, is in Oakland, New Jersey. Oaklyn, not Oakland. And they partnered up with Revolution Coffee Roasters in Collinswood to make this beer. So this beer, like a typical porter, has the dark color coming from the brown malt, and then because it's an American porter, it has an adjunct such as like molasses or maize, and then in this case, it has the coffee as the adjunct. So
interesting.
And then side note, I just ordered coffee from Revolution Roasters, completely like unrelated to this. It just happened to be. So we'll see. I like the coffee. Hopefully, I like the beer.
Here we go. I'm stoked about this.
Yeah. Let's get into it.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's got quite a light color.
Yeah.
Compared to some of the porters we've had, but this is the right color for a porter, isn't it? A porter's meant to be lighter than a stout.
Right. So a stout originally it was called a porter stout, which was a porter that was like almost like an imperial porter in a theory. And then they would call it porter stout, and then it just got shortened to stout. So yes, a porter would be lighter. I think this is a great color. I can smell the coffee.
Oh, that's delicious. That's not as in your face as some of the ones we've had. We've had some really like powerful, amazing taste sensations. This seems a bit more sessiony.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
6.5. So it's a reasonable rational beer. It's not one of those 14%.
Right. And I think that's like the worst part is that when you have like those beers that are like really heavy and you're just like, you know what, I don't feel like getting like inebriated off of one beer. Like I want to have like some, I want to have my senses with me after drinking. And the thing is like, I don't understand people that drink beer to get drunk, because if you want to just get hammered, just drink hard liquor. I'm not advocating that, by the way. I would like to specify that. I'm not saying go, just go get drunk, especially the day before New Year's. I do think, like, obviously everybody should drink responsibly, but I think that, like, if you're drinking to get drunk, the fastest way to do that would be something with a higher ABV. You don't need to drink beer for that. You should be drinking beer because, first of all, you should be drinking or ingesting anything because you like the taste, not for a desired effect. Like, I'm not an advocate for, like, drinking to get drunk at this point in my life. I'm too old for that. And, but I do think that, like, you should enjoy the taste of a beer. And I think that these higher ABVs sometimes, they focus too much on the alcohol, not enough on the flavor. And, that's really what it should be about. It should be about the flavor, not about, not about the alcohol content.
And you think at 6.5%, this isn't that far off like a Guinness or something, but it's so much more complex.
I agree. Guinness is, I think, like 4.5. This has like a great flavor. It's not it's not like overpowering with the alcohol. It's very robust with the coffee flavor. I enjoy this. I would definitely recommend this. Good job, Tonewood and Revolution Coffee Roasters.
And I'm very much appreciative that they're representing Jersey here. Gotta love that. Garden State forever.
Have you lived outside of New Jersey, New York? I mean, like, obviously England, but I mean, like, in the United States. Like,
I haven't, and
state-wise.
I haven't, and it's funny, until recently, this year, I hadn't really gone much further. I went to San Francisco once, and then Florida once, and that was about it. And now it's like I've been all over the place.
Right. Yeah, it's funny because, like, my sister's a huge traveler, and she's very big on, like, foreign travel, not very big into the domestic stuff. And then this year with 2020, the way it went, a lot of, like, the domestic stuff a lot of the foreign stuff was harder to do. And, she was going through a relational transition. And she had, like, her, for lack of a better way of phrasing it, her, like, eat, pray, love moment where she was like, you know what, I'm going to go out west. I'm going to go see the national parks for 2 weeks. And she did, and then she came back. We had dinner together, and she was like, you know what, this is, like, there's a lot to do in this country. And it is, like, a completely different world. Because you figure, like, we're a bi-coastal country, and there's not many of those in the world where it's like one country has 2 oceans. And we do. And it's a vastly different, and I think also the progression of time that went into developing it. It's not like there was sort of like a style that developed over the course of like one instance. It was a slow development in terms of like American culture, where it was like, okay, 1620s, the West Coast, the East Coast got settled by Europe, and then slowly we started progressing further out in like the mid to late 1800s, where like California got settled and whatnot. And I think that just leads to a different culture, because you figure, like, if you have 2 centuries between the establishment of I don't want to say civilization, because there were civilizations here before the Europeans, but it kind of like European settlement from the 1600s to the 1800s. A lot changes in 200 years. I mean, there is more time elapsed between the Pilgrims landing on the Mayflower and the settlement of California and the Gold Rush than between now and the Gold Rush, which is like crazy to think about, because we don't think about the Gold Rush being recent. I don't know where I was going. Oh, I remember what it was. I was like, I went off on a tangent about like history and culture here. I don't know what it was. So there are like different accents, and it's just so different across the country. Where on like the East Coast, New York, New Jersey area is different than even like Pennsylvania, which they both border, which is vastly different from like Chicago, which is different from the South, which is different from the West. And,
I mean, I went to Wyoming, and Wyoming was it just blew me away, and it was amazing. It was, and I mean, it was in Utah. In Utah, it's like they talk about God's country, but it's like I stopped my car and stood and looked out across the Salt Lakes for about 20 minutes because it was the most incredible sight I'd ever seen.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, history is so fascinating, because when you bring up Utah, it's like, Utah's, at least when I think of Utah, I think of like the Mormons and the basketball team, the Jazz, which they have no Jazz in Utah. And the movie SLC Punk, I also think. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
I haven't seen that one. I'll have to look that one up.
SLC Punk was like a mid-90s movie about beer. SLC Punk was related to that they would drive, because you couldn't buy alcohol in Utah. I'm probably butchering this plot. I haven't seen the movie in like 15 years. But basically, they were like, these like punk band kind of guys. And it was Matthew Lillard, and I can't remember the other actor. But they would like drive across state lines to buy beer, and then they would like give it to their friends, because you couldn't buy beer in Salt Lake City. So SLC is Salt Lake City Punk.
I'm going to have to look. Matthew Lillard, gotta love him. Voice of Shaggy.
Yeah.
Right. That is interesting. It was funny trying all the different beers and stuff while I was out there, but and just a different way of life. But this is a taste of Jersey, and I appreciate this.
Yeah,
and let's try the coffee as well. Okay, well, Are we ready for tomorrow?
I think we're ready for tomorrow, where we have another Jersey beer and a pun beer, which is also, I love puns, much to the chagrin of my work neighbor. But yeah, stay tuned for tomorrow, and yeah.
Sounds good.
Responsibly.